the purpose that Mr. Adiremi, Barrister Adiremi, stated, and the discussions. I was listening to the discussions there, and I can see the articulacy and the profoundness of some of us that are here. And I can say that I still believe it, I live it, that our country still has a future, and I still hope that Nigeria will be great. These whole efforts, when you told me that about 70 people will be here, I said, okay, that would be very nice. Maybe we're not up to half of 70, maybe close to 2/3 of 70. But one thing I need to say is that followers are very many, but leaders are very, very few. So you don't need to have a crowd. When you call the protest, a lot of people will join you. They join for the enthusiasm, for the work. But when it comes to thinking through things, it is the leaders like you that will make a difference. And I can see it from the way you are working. There's also this concept of what we call Pareto analysis, 20 influencing 80. You guys are the 20 people that will influence the 80% of the population. And I can see the concern you have. I stand from a position of experience and probably knowledge around Nigeria. We've not given up. There is enough reason now for people like us to say, forget about that country. A lot of my colleagues have given up. I can tell you that. My own generation, or even the people above us, if they are not giving up, they are exploiting the opportunities available for them. They are not giving back. They just want to maintain themselves to the end of their lives, or even their families, because they've tried. They call themselves a wasted generation. We are like a wasting generation. I hope you will not be also a waste, because the configuration of this country is such that it is the way it was configured. I do a lot of these studies, and I shared it with a lot of people. Right from the beginning, it was not based on truth and sincerity and honesty and fairness and equity. So, and thus far, what we have been experiencing generations, let's say generation is 10 years, so we have had 60 generations, now 6 generations now. It's just a circle of that deceit. And that is what the people you are looking up to serve you, that is what they are benefiting from. And I think that I also connected to what you said about the fundamentals of YPM. I remember it. Stewardship, transparency, empowerment, and people-driven government. Emancipation. Yeah, I call that emancipation because I will talk about it, because I need to start from there so that I can connect with where you are. Because you all agreed that that is good for you. Servant stewardship, which are called servant leadership. Life is about service. Leadership is about service. It's not about position. A lot of our people, right from 1960 till 2021, still see leadership as an opportunity for self-aggrandizement, about position to flex muscle, exploitation, and all of that. That is the paradigm of leadership that we have. So if you are calling it servant or stewardship, that means we are getting something right from ab initio. And I hope all of us we can spread that message that leadership is not about position. It's not about His Excellency. It's not about even honorable. It's not about leader. I was fighting because we do it in the political circle. I've been also in that circle too. And the moment they start calling you leader, they are deceiving you. Please don't accept that appellation. Leader this, leader that, my leader. This is the greatest deception of the world. If the engagement changes, if the currency changes, you are no more a leader. It's the current person that becomes that leader. But let's just take it as servant leadership. Servant leadership is about responsibility, caring for people, recognizing that life itself is about service. Can you be paid? Can you pay your mother for bringing you up? You can never. The only thing you can do is to honor them. But when you see a mother suffering, bringing up a child, anytime I see children going to school in the morning and I see their mother, I'm saying, well, these guys will not pay these people back home. But that's the way God has done it. He has done it that you will continue to serve. You will aspire to be a mother. You will aspire to be a father so that you can continue that service syndrome. And that's what leadership is all about. So, but we don't take it that way. We imbibed the colonial mentality of leadership. We imbibed it, and that's what most of the people in government do. And so, servant leadership, I agree to it very much. And all this I'm talking about, I have also tried to live it. So I'm not just talking theory. There are people who know me when I was in government. I think Delu knows me. Akishola knows me very well. My doors are very, very open. Even as commissioner for finance, if I didn't have time to even meet people, I would say, look, let us have a session to talk about what we are doing. So that, because transparency is the next thing. Transparency is very critical. Between friends, within yourselves, between couples, before you now graduate to community, because you go to society, the moment somebody is doing something and the other person does not know, you begin to challenge the basis of your relationship ab initio. That's what has happened with Nigeria. When they were forming Nigeria and they couldn't win, you remember what happened? I don't know whether you know the story. There couldn't be a dominant party or a dominant section that everybody voted for itself. People voted for Igbo. Yorubas voted for Yoruba. They not voted for the North. And they wanted to come together to say, how do we then form a government? They deceived the Yoruba to Asaba to say they should go and have a meeting there so that they can recognize in the South. Then, in the process, they have invited some people to the North. Before you know it, they agreed in the North, and our people here have found one thing. Even after the Civil War, because in their political leadership, Ishola was there. Abi, we have the story of Nigeria. Some of these things we need to know. You see, even when Ojukwu and the rest of during the war, after the war, when they wanted to reconcile with Gowon, Ojukwu and Baba Awolowo, it was also not transparency. It was this transparency issue that didn't lead to a new formation. We're not talking about everybody to himself now and the region. Because somewhere along the line, we were all looking at, okay, am I going to lead the whole Nigeria or lead a part of Nigeria? That led to the problem that we still have till today. And even, so we're still there. Transparency is very important. And I think if you build it as a value within yourselves, it becomes very important. Then emancipation, or which I call empowerment, or it's tied to what my friend talked about. Emancipation is not just about justice and equity good, but what is it based on? When people are hungry, when people don't have the means by which they can express themselves to get value for their lives, anything goes. And so people, you may be free, but we are not free. In the sense that the people who have your conscience, your decisions can be bought. A whole lot of our people, particularly in the political process, they buy consciences. They feed on ignorances and poverty. And so, if people are not free, like Madam was trying to say, people don't have a means by which they can generate value for their lives. 5,000 naira or 1,000 naira on election day, or even before election day, does what? Does a lot of magic. So, in your emancipation, expand it to include not even empowerment. Emancipation must include economic empowerment and wealth creation. And then you can talk about people-driven governance. So that people that are there must be thinking that they are not there for themselves. They are there for the people. So that is starting all of that. Just to connect with that and to know that I believe this, I have committed it to memory, and I believe that is a signal of a new generation that must sort of save us from the morals that we found ourselves. I got involved in all of this when I started hearing about EndSARS. I didn't even think about it until somebody called me when I said, what is this? I said, this way again. What are you doing yourself? Somebody called me and said, this EndSARS is a serious thing, you know. I think I was in Lagos. They showed me, this is the way they organize, this is the way they mobilize money, this is the way they did this. I said, I then spent the whole night studying the whole structure of the EndSARS movement, even when it was on. And I said, and I started posting on Facebook immediately. I said, what I've seen, this is challenging the status quo. Because we know how political parties are set up. We know how political movements are set up. We know how, somewhere we've gotten the privilege of being part of that process to see. You need a money bag. you need people who will do mobilization for you, which you are going to pay, abi? And you need a message, whether direct or not. But in all of this, and then there's this thing you also mentioned there about collective leadership. And they were talking about that. Sometimes then we need a leader. It's anywhere the leader goes. That's where we go. Whether the leader is right or wrong. So those are the basic ingredients of the system. But I now saw in this other one, I said, something is happening here. I think Nigerians are woken up. And I started watching what was doing. How they account for the money. It goes everywhere. Everybody starts organizing. They do the protests. Everybody cleans up at the end of the day. No violence, nothing. And the thing reverberated, not only in the southwest, all over Nigeria. And people saw it and said, this is our hope. But something happened somewhere down the line. What happened? It was hijacked. They labeled it and they scattered it. We did not live when the ovation was loudest. I need to tell you the truth. Me, I'm very truthful. I will tell you the way it is. We did not live. And the other thing is that we were not clear. What is it that, and that's what I always ask people, in anything you are doing, and that's number one question. What is your end in mind? We can start anything. Today we started something. We're having a physical meeting. We started meeting. Now we are together now. What is our end in mind? Just like we will have asked ourselves, what is our end in mind in starting the protest? We are saying, okay, look, this brutality is too much. Let us protest. What is our end in mind? If you have said we just wanted to show that we are not happy with this, and we can step it there, and then they know that some people are not happy, and they can stop things from happening, then that could have been a goal. But we extended it because the enthusiasm was going on, and it tended to, from NSAS, like you said, end bad governance. It was moving from a certain number of agenda to another level of agenda to another level of agenda. Agendas were well crafted. They address the reality of the people. Can we fight can we achieve all the kind of agenda in one fell swoop? I need to tell you, I've been inside government. No government, no matter how weak that government is, will want to succumb to any form of challenge. I've been at the inner core of government. No government, even when they have to do something wrong, to show that they are still government, they will do it. Because the other side is anarchy. And the spoils of the issue of anarchy is even more. Because we have seen it. Arab rising, Syrian rising, Libya rising. I mean, Arab Spring. What happened after they toppled all their governments? And that is the way, full-blown war. At the end of the day, today, is Libya the same? Are the Arabs the same? So those people, the political scientists and everybody who are going to advise, say, look, as justified as this is, we cannot succumb. We have to find a way. Either intimidate them, frustrate them, or buy them. Everything is fair in war. I'm telling you facts. You will know which one they used for you. It could be amalgam. It could be a combination. It could be part of intimidation. It could be part of frustrate. It could be also buying. When it comes to governance and statehood, I tell you. And that reality, when you're talking about having effective governance, at this generation, you need to know it. So it's not a tea party. It's not a tea party. Because that's where we started from. That's where the awareness started from. Some of us who got awareness at some point in our lives too. And we fought for it. We got to a point. I said, look, in 1993, that was MK Abiola. I was part of Concerned Professionals. And we also did the same thing, almost the same thing. We pushed it, but we didn't define also our objective. Raising issues, writing all of this, sending up. By the time Abacha decided to roll, some of us ran away. The people that left behind, the decision we had to take in 1998 or 1999 when Abacha died and all of them happened and they wanted to go into democracy in 1999 was that do we participate? Do we not participate? People said, no, we can't participate. Let us continue to be our activists and be challenging them. And then at that time in AD, in any parliamentary party, they were looking for candidates. We had enough people who could be candidates at that time. But because we felt our role was not to be part of them or to be criticizing them, we stood apart. No, generations make mistakes. And the reality for us to be able to see that mistake and so that we don't fall into it again. It is nice to say I'm apolitical. I don't want to be involved. Let me tell you something. You can't get a baby without shedding or water. Either of the information. Yeah. So you can't be saying, oh, my term is similar. Kondodo. The only accepted form of assessing governance, of getting good governance, is through what? The democratic process. They've done that in Nigeria. I shared one film to you the other day. You didn't agree. But I said, no problem. It's still in Nigeria. It's still democracy. It has to then go through the vehicle of political parties and the political process. I'm not saying you should be that. But you should understand that that is the process. But how do you change it? Because you want your desired future. It is what you then, a matter of strategy, which maybe may not be for here, but I just say that. I don't need to say that. So that was very good. That was very good. The initiative was good. The mobilization was good. The execution was good. The accountability was good. But now that we got that, what are we going to do with it was the question, was the issue. And I think that after all that happened, a lot of that today, when you talk about NSAS, people say, those boys want them, and we had a lot of hope with them. That's what people say. But when you continued and said something must happen, we mobilize. I can see the character, I can see the quality of people that are here, only from the way you are talking, the way you are interacting, drawn all across, articulate, focused, understood. But people I said, yes, this is the kind of generation. I know that you can mobilize people outside there. But is your strategy right? How can you make it right? Because of another. Because the problems you complain, NSAS may have gone, there is more now that government has to attend to. That's what somebody said was a manifestation of a systemic weakness at that time. The weakness is still continuing. There are so many things we have seen. Educational system, somebody mentioned it there. Employment system, people leaving secondary school. Who are those doing the policies? We want to talk to the House of Assembly. I said I will not do presentation. I wanted to talk from my mind so that I can, the way it occurs to me. So, the purpose must be very clear. It may not be defined, it may not be one at a time, it may be stepwise. We call it stepwise. We've done this, then next. You will not see the whole path. But you learn from what you've achieved. Definitely you achieved something with the movement, with the protests. This is next stage, to mobilize people of like minds to be able to sustain that momentum. I think that is what it is all about. And I think that is what I am thinking. So that has to be clear, that purpose. Somebody, the moderator has mentioned the potential of youth. Today, in the world today, the youth are the ones that are defining what is happening in the world today. There is a lot more even expectations from Nigeria. Like you said it, we have probably the highest number of youth in the world, and it's growing. If I had the time, I would have shown you one film by Akinwumi Adesina at a youth conference, and he was saying, I see the energy of Nigerian youth. I don't see them as problem, I see them as assets. The problem is, how can we convert those potential to possibilities? How can we do that? That is a big question that I think your movement has to do. Because it is when those potential is converted, or the process those possibilities are in various realms. It can be in the economic realm, it can be in the political realm, it can be in the activism realm. I was showing him that model, I showed him that model. And I think I would suggest it to you, even if not for a political party. I would suggest it to the movement. Because when you do things like that, you begin to see that, go and watch that film again. A Tale of Two Political Systems. the China example. You will see, and they showed where China was before and where it is today. And they showed that the way they organized their own system is such that they based it on some of the values we talked about. Those values, on capacity, egalitarianism, three or four values they talk about, and a whole lot of things like that. And you cannot move inside that ladder within their system without being tested. I think beyond that cloak of is it a party, is it one party, so to look at that, is the fact that when you have a movement like this, that movement like this must be able to classify people according to their abilities and give people access based on their abilities, such that not access and even responsibilities based on their abilities, so that by the time they are rising up, they are ready for it. Because what has happened in Nigeria is that, let me tell you something, there is no school of governance in Nigeria. There is no school of representative assembly member. The only thing they know is that when you want to contest, what are the indicators? Any level you have contested or you are contesting. You do a poster, you consult the leaders, you go to the obas, or you go to the area people. And okay, what's the name? Delutu has also contested. What is the template? It's the same. That's the template. And we want to run that template and change. You cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness you had that when you created that problem. All the problems that were created today as a result of running that same problem, that same system. So if you want to change that system, what will happen? You have to run another template. So for those of them that are still interested in political office, they need to run another template. We did it before. We did it. I participated in that process. When in 2001, 2002, 2003, when OGD was coming to Ogun State, and without, he wasn't a politician. We all started like this. We are not even up to this. Like the 1920 of us. And we said, how do you want to get to that state? Everybody don't think you cannot encounter that. We said, simple principle. The major issue for mobilizing people is economic empowerment. Put up programs that will economically empower people and ride on it. It's not a template that people use now. Those days we used to do lottery. We carry sewing machine, Barbie, whatever, go to centers, they will do lottery. We will carry. I made the first presentation in 2001 for Gateway Fund Foundation. I was a very young person. I met that 20-something years ago. Maybe in my 30s. So that presentation was challenging the setup. You can't go and be meeting leader. You need to engage the people through something that they understand. And it was not either, and we organized them based on their various clusters. So that was the template then. Iran. You see, one is for Iran to win the election. Did he run to run an effective government? It's neither here nor there. I'm telling you, neither here nor there. In the first time, people said, okay, we did quite a lot of things. Second time, we couldn't control that again. And then everything started the way it went to. So the point is that, and even, okay, some of the issues we mentioned today, drug abuse, courtesy, we dealt with it also. People say, you are cutting them. But it was like, you need to engage these people to know where they need. We created sports. Allow them to play sports. When you don't have things that are nature, our boss, vacuum, and idle hands. People are leaving school, no work, no prospect of work. They are in school. They believe that what there's this now, they say school na scam, NYSC na scam. Not true? So when somebody is living a paradigm of scam, even Nigeria itself, na scam. So it becomes a big issue for somebody who wants to reform, people like you. It will not be at protest. Protest is just a signal. We are tired with this. You have to then regroup and organize. And I think it's that organization that you are doing today, which I commend you for. So, and it has been done before in other realms. There has been scams before. Nigerians today, Wizkid, Davido, all of them, they didn't grow up in a normal. Today, the world recognizes them. Abi, Kanu went to the field of football before. We used to watch the bands those days. We used to think those people who play football are from Brazil and UK. They are from another planet. In our own younger days, now Africans penetrated that sphere. And what happened? You know, that's my problem. That's why I said, and I've not, but I would make sure I capture the points. In other spheres of our life, one thing that's shown that gives me hope is this: Nigerians have the capacity to run an effective system. When I say system, a total, I'm also saying governance system, because governance is also a part of an effective, both economy, political, and everything, if the right people are doing it. And the government cannot do it alone. There must be economic players, there must be security players, there must be when all those people work together and they say they want to develop a good system, it will be made. If we have done it in sports, we have done it in music, we have done it in even in the religions. The best institutions in Nigeria today that are almost world class are religious organizations. World class. They started from here. Today, go to a Redeemed camp, go to Christ Embassy, go to the, see the kind of buildings they are having, see the way they organize their system. They are Africans, they are Nigerians. And they are bigger and they are more effective in not only in Nigeria, in all the other countries, because they base it on principles. They base it on some principles that they enunciated and they all believed in. So if you believe in those principles, like you started now, each of those pillars can be a book where you are exploring all the dimensions of it, so that everybody knows that if you belong to this organization, these are the things we believe in. These are the things, because let me tell you, every civilization in the world has been based on a book, on the word. So if you want to, what is happening today in the political sense that there is no word guiding anybody. The constitution is not. The constitution, even if it is, you all know. All the lawyers there know all the gaps RDT was created for us. So you need to create a mandate, a book that everybody believes in, where a lot of these things have to be articulated, so that you don't need to be teaching people, because that's where you can propagate it. So that is one. The other thing then is I've talked about organization, I've talked about the fact that you can do it, that has been done before. And don't think it cannot be done. Rwanda, Dubai, 20, 30 years ago were nothing. People of a generation decided to say, no, we want to take our place in the world. So if there is any set of people that can take a place in the world today, particularly for Nigeria, it's people like you. People are showing an example. The likes of Paystack. They all started there, Nabi. So, and if they can penetrate that system for the world to recognize that they are doing something good here, you can do that in every other discipline too. It just takes discipline. It takes discipline, it takes knowledge. Perfunctory knowledge do not do this. Deep knowledge. So, and that's why I said leaders are not many, followers are many, leaders are few. A few of you must be knowledge champions in whatever area of life that you want to choose. And the world has made it so simple. But I'm also an advocate of that. The problems of the world are articulated in the Sustainable Development Goals. And funding, there are things to be done. All the examples you are giving are all cases for attaching the Sustainable Development Goals. 70 of them, we've broken them into 6 areas: end poverty, end good governance. All of them are there. So you don't need to think too far. Look at what is being done in other parts of the world, and let us begin to have teams that are working on that. It is when you give society, what I found out is this: when you give society or players a better alternative, you give them a better alternative to engage government in answers. What other alternative do you want to give them in governance? If you don't give them a better alternative, nothing happens. Let me tell you, all the people you are trying to consult, I have worked with them. They are not even going to have any impact. I've worked with a group like that. Let me tell you, in any state government, there are only 5 people that run the government. It is not the House of Assembly person. He's not the House of Assembly person. He's not your representative. The guy is also trying to get his own part of the deal. It's not all the commissioners too. It's SSG, the chief of staff, the governor, commissioner for finance, maybe one other person. And probably justice, so that's all. I'm telling you. So, if you know that, in the Buhari's government today, is it all the ministers? You see, so when you want to engage governments, know the people you are engaging for matter, where it matters. And if you pencil them very well, you can get them. And you can say, you are not doing this right. But the moment you start striking that person, who is an influencer, you can get leverage on what you want to do. Then if you are pursuing somebody who is still going to talk to somebody, the only thing that the House of Assembly person, the National Assembly person will do is to raise a motion. And they do a resolution. Where is the end of that resolution? These days, I don't talk to radio again. Because all the things we talk about it, who listens? We are just doing what they call intellectual masturbation. I'm telling you. And that's the opinion of the people. The decision maker call. Because I know, look, go to research. Okay, you have 17 radio stations in Abeokuta, for example, and you are talking to government. Do you think you have people watching Rock City, watching this one? And then after what did they say today? So that I can take it to. In some areas when the noise is much, they listen, but I don't think it makes a lot of. If you get this SSG down and say, no, you are not popular, you people are not doing anything in Ogun East, you are from Ogun East, and we are looking at you to deliver something for us. These are the 3 things that we want you to do, unless I will continue to hit you. Good enough, I said it here. This context and the climate is now conducive for engagement. Mass media is different. Personal media is very apt. You can face one person